Damn, I love playing that game.
I know, it's so much fun.
Evolve is super fun.
Fall Guys kicked the can and isn't really ever talked about anymore.
90% of the people that were playing it are no longer playing it, and they moved on to something else.
Video games have evolved from the first time they hit the masses. When Nintendo took over the world and saved the gaming industry from a collapse, video game culture as a whole was different. Back then, playing video games with some friends consisted of either going to an arcade and taking turns beating your buddy's score in Galaga, or going over a friend's house to play, staying up all night to try and beat Contra together. But Microsoft changed the entire landscape with the Xbox in 2001. Online games were technically new. You could play this game, but Microsoft took it to a whole new level. They shipped out the Xbox with a broadband connection and a hard drive, which shows you how forward-thinking they were, because now every major game console is coming out with a broadband internet connection and a hard drive. Well, besides the Switch. You are a special case. But Microsoft knew that they could achieve the biggest online gaming community the world has ever seen. Now other game companies are just adapting to what Microsoft capitalized on. Good internet connectivity, voice chat and messaging systems, profiles, achievements. This shift in online gaming is so substantial that nowadays when we think of playing games with your friends, it's usually online with a voice chat of some sort. When 20 years ago, it was more like couch co-op gaming and LAN parties. As companies continued to expand on the multiplayer side of things, video games were being created for the sole purpose of being played online. Games like World of Warcraft, League of Legends, and Rocket League. All these games without an online community would not function. So, for example, if everyone in the world decided to stop playing Rocket League, then Rocket League goes from being an online game to a dead game. And dead video games is a phenomenon that was created from the online video game community. But, I mean, what really determines a dead video game? What's interesting is the more I thought and researched about dead video games, I realized it's up to your interpretation. Essentially, you define what a dead video game is. But there seems to be two very common opinions on what is considered dead. The first one is player count. So let's take a game like PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. This game skyrocketed into the masses back in 2017 and took the world by storm. It grew to insane popularity levels overnight and even brought to light a niche game genre to the masses: Battle Royale. What once was a game mode that only a handful of people knew from games like Minecraft or mods in Arma 2 was now a term talked about by everybody. But once more games came into the light like Fortnite and Call of Duty Warzone, PUBG was taken out of the spotlight and pushed to the side. The player count slowly fizzled out over the next few years, and here we are with today. People commonly look at PUBG like it's dead, but if you look up the Steam charts, it says that there's still 150,000 people playing at any given time. Take a look at this picture. This was a pro wrestling event called Collision in Korea by NJPW and WCW. There were 150,000 people attending this event. Could you imagine every single one of these people playing PUBG at any given moment in time? In my opinion, I think PUBG is far from dead. However, when you look at the all-time peak of PUBG's player count, it sat at over 3 million people online. Now, putting that into perspective, there's only 5% of players left. So, when you compare the player count to its all-time peak, it's easy to see how someone would think PUBG is a dead game. And this happens for a lot of games. Fall Guys is considered dead. Remnant from the Ashes, dead. Left 4 Dead 1, dead. White Noise 2, dead. Killing Floor 1, dead. All of these games are considered dead to the public eye. But if you look beyond the surface, you can see dedicated players keeping these games going. Sure, Left 4 Dead 1 only has 600-ish people playing, but you only need 8 people to play a full versus game. And you only need 4 people to play through the regular campaign. Let's take a really small, more obscure game like Toxic. This arena shooter, similar to Unreal Tournament, has barely enough people to fill a school bus at certain times. And its overall peak in popularity is only 1,300 people. To most, that game is beyond dead. But you only need one other person to play the game. So theoretically, I can still hop on, hit quick play, and hop into a game. Toxic is still alive and well. You can jump on and play against a handful of people, and it is just as fun as I remember. There's another definition of a dead game going around in the community. I quote, "A game is considered dead when the servers have been taken down." Fair enough. These online games are held up from servers that a company needs to supply and maintain. If Blizzard decides that World of Warcraft isn't bringing in enough money to keep the server up and running anymore, they may just pull the plug, and then there's no way to log on and play. Totally fair. Now, this definition makes the most sense to me. If there's no way to log on and play it, then the game is dead. And for quite a few games, that is definitely the case. Games like Evolve, Death Garden, Loadout, Savage Resurrection, and Lawbreakers. Some games end up staying up for years, and slowly as the player count dwindles, the money stops flowing in, and there's no other choice but to stop funding and move on to the next project. Some games don't get a proper chance and instantly fall apart shortly after they launch due to poor marketing. But some of these games, have you tried booting them up again? Lawbreakers is in a saddening state. You can't even get through the title screen without the game trying to log you in. Because the servers are down, it just loops you back to the title screen. But some of these games you can open up and actually look through the profile stats and inventory and stuff. For example, Savage Resurrection, a neat real-time strategy game mixed with a first-person shooter. A game that I only got to play 3 times, and then the developers ran it into the ground. I can still log in and look at my pitiful stats. I thought you could still load up custom games, but it looks like that's not the case. It's a shame, but you can still read up on all the buildings and the weapons, the different vehicles and units. I mean, it sucks that you can't play an official game anymore, but at least you can still look at your stats and profile. You can still reminisce on what it was like playing. In my opinion, the game is not officially dead, because you can still click through the menu, enjoy the background music. You can just barely transport yourself back into the past when it was still a functioning game. Another example of this is Evolve. Evolve, if you haven't heard of it, it was a game that was designed with esports in mind. It was a 1 versus 4 multiplayer game where one person controls a monster and the other 3 control human players of varying skills and abilities. In my opinion, it was a pretty fun game, but the developers destroyed it from the get-go with its ludicrous DLC and cosmetic prices.
$130 worth of downloadable content that isn't even on the Season's Pass.
Most games, they will let you grind to unlock new characters, or if you have to buy it with real money, it ends up being a few bucks. Nope, not Evolve. It was a $60 game, and then to unlock a new monster, you had to pay another $15 each. That pretty much instantly killed itself. But I still have many fond memories. I met a lot of cool people in Evolve, like Turnip. I miss you, dude. You were the best rapper. But you can log in and look at all of the monsters and cosmetics, all the abilities and perks you can unlock. But Evolve has something unique. There is a training mode, which allows you to take down a monster with AI partners. So I decided to take a trip down nostalgia lane. Let's play Evolve in 2020. Is it the exact same experience as it was 6 years ago? No, of course not. But at least you can still enjoy running around the map, looking at the wildlife, and taking on the monster like the good old days. Again, it's not the same experience, but at least you can still check it out on the surface and reminisce, and that matters a lot. Theoretically, this game could come back with peer-to-peer servers, but who knows if that would happen. What is peer-to-peer servers? It's just another way for games to keep going with its life cycle. Doom, the first-person shooter that took the world by storm and started a new legacy for gaming. It's still alive with its peer-to-peer system. Basically, Doom doesn't have any dedicated servers from id Software. Instead, when someone decides to create a multiplayer game with clients like Doom Explorer, you can create your own server, and then someone else can join it by entering your IP address. Basically, you create the server instead of joining a company's. And this makes it easy for people to still get online and play deathmatch or co-op with people. Now, some of you might be telling yourself, well, if I have to go out of my way to find people just to play an online game, then I would consider it dead. Okay, fair enough. The benefits of an alive and well game is just being able to hop online and join in. But I'll tell you this, using that same logic, then any board game is considered a dead game. I mean, don't get me wrong, it can be a pain in the ass sometimes, but think about it. You have to round up a group of friends, figure out when they're all off work or aren't busy with stuff, then figure out whose house is going to be hosting the game and then go over and play it. Isn't that the same thing as figuring out how to host a peer-to-peer server for a game and then rounding everybody up? If a game has peer-to-peer server access, then I would consider consider it hard to play, but not dead. But at this point, you must be wondering, well, what the hell do I consider a dead game? I mean, geez, if it's not a low player count or when servers are taken down, then what could possibly be considered dead to me? Let me tell you about the unfortunate death of a game called Nosgoth. Nosgoth was a game published by Square Enix. It was a spin-off of the Legacy of Kain series. It was a free multiplayer game that pitted two teams against each other, human side and a vampire side. Each game consisted of 2 rounds. The humans played like a third-person shooter, with some abilities and different grenade types. And then the vampires were mainly close quarters. They had more of a hack-and-slash, melee-based combat. Between rounds, each team would switch which side they were on, and the team that accumulated the most kills at the end won the game. Now, this led to a very interesting dynamic of gameplay. It was easy to see how the humans had an upper hand with guns from their range, but if you worked together as vampires well enough, you could overpower the human side. It took strategy, teamwork, and skill to come out on top with a victory. And because of that reason, it was the most fun, unique, and well-balanced multiplayer game I think I've ever played. But Nosgoth didn't receive the attention it deserved. See, a lot of people loved Legacy of Kain, which is a single-player action RPG with a lot of lore and depth, spanning hundreds of hours through multiple games on many different platforms. When the spin-off Nosgoth came out, it wasn't well received by people who've been engrossed in the Legacy of Kain all these years. See, a free-to-play online-only team-based game wasn't really popular at the time. Pretty much the only other game to follow the standards was Team Fortress 2, and that is a completely different experience. The Nosgoth developers tried their best to keep it alive. I mean, they came out with many balancing patches and created a whole new map, but it didn't matter. Nosgoth ended up dwindling away, and games like Overwatch swooped in and put a stop to any chance the game had for coming back, or even being remembered in the future. Now, all these other games we have talked about, they have some sort of way to be enjoyed. And even if it's a fraction of enjoyment in comparison to its heyday, you can still hop on and play some of these games, or set up peer-to-peer servers with others, or even just log in and browse through the menus and profile stats. But Nosgoth has neither of these things. Servers were taken down in May of 2016, and the only thing left is the client you can download in your Steam library. But installing it and launching only brings up a white window of nothingness. The only thing we have left to go off of is gameplay people recorded and uploaded online. And because its heyday was around 2014 to 2016, the quality is pretty good for the time, but it's not the same as truly playing the game. These videos kind of remind me of like memories. When you think back to your early childhood and you can remember doing something fun, but you can only grasp some of the detail, that's how I feel when I watch these videos on Nosgoth. And because you can only open a blank window, and the only gameplay you can go off of is someone else's old recording, Nosgoth, I would say, is officially a dead game. Now, I didn't make this video to terrify you about losing your favorite games. The only reason I wanted to make this is to discuss what is considered a dead game. But I think this video has a much bigger, deep-rooted meaning behind it. Online video games unfortunately have a shelf life, some longer than others. Don't take these games that you're playing as fact that they will always be there, because my biggest regret isn't the fact that Nosgoth is gone. My biggest regret is not playing it more when it was around. Don't take your games for granted, and make sure you enjoy them to the fullest now, because where will those games be in 5 years?
Chequen. Dice que tiene flavor, no creo que lo tenga, aunque diga en su rima que soy fan de los 90. Wake up, bro, despierta, no me malentiendan. Lo que hablan son mentiras, solo comentan las ventas. Pero voy tranqui, a mí no me representan. Prefiero escuchar trap que la mierda que se inventa, porque eso no es de corazón, es para exhibir, entiendan. Le definen tu principio, no olvidas que te encomiendas. Te definen tu principio, no olvidas que te encomiendas. Es verdad, mierda real, esto es mierda real.